Coming up on this week's show, a gaming-related blunder in Stranger Things.
The most advanced Dreamcast VMU yet.
More classics come to the Evercade.
And the Retro Hour podcast is brought to you every Friday with our sponsor, our incredible friends at Bitmap Books. Now, maybe you're thinking of Christmas present ideas for yourself. Have you seen their incredible new volume, Trigger Happy, a visual celebration of video game controllers? Now, this incredible book takes you through the history of some of the finest and maybe not so finest game controllers of all time, talking about their design, the history, and of course, those incredible photos, more than 560 in this book, and weighing in at more than 390 pages, co-written by legendary games journalist Steve Jarrett. You can check it out and the rest of their retro gaming collection right now at bitmapbooks.com. And with our good friends at Replay Events. Now, they're going to be bringing the UK's biggest retro gaming market back to Leeds next year on Sunday, the 8th of February at the Royal Armouries Museum. Now, if you've not been before, basically a massive venue filled with nothing but video games and merchandise, and thousands of gamers and fellow collectors there as well. Everyone really eager to grab a bargain. Doors open at 10:30 a.m. and you can book your tickets right now at leedsgamingmarket.com. Hello and welcome to the Retro Hour podcast, episode number 509, your weekly dose of retro gaming and technology news with me, Dan Wood.
Me, Ravi Abbott.
And me, Joe Fox.
And a very warm welcome to this week's show, the podcast that lands on your podcast feed every single Friday, maybe on your YouTube timeline, and brings you up to speed on all the big happenings in the wonderful world of retro gaming and technology, and welcomes on more veterans of the industry for a bit of a chat about their career on the show every single week. And there is something about doing this podcast around this time of year, because I know you guys are probably the same. Getting to December, things just go manic for a couple of weeks, and that kind of crunch before Christmas, not only like work, but Christmas shopping, parties and all that coming up in the next couple of weeks. Nice to just take a bit of time out for an hour and geek out about games.
Yeah, and also prepare for the quiz, which is coming up as well.
I said not stressful, Ravi. That is stressful, yeah. Because, of course, we did mention last week that we do a couple of Christmas specials around this time of year, including our wonderful Retro Hour Christmas Super Quiz, which is the episode we put out just before Christmas. Always the most fun episode of the year.
I think it's the most popular as well. I've had quite a few people contact me, say they listen with their kids and stuff, and everyone gets involved. So, yeah, it should be a funny one, this.
Yeah, looking forward to showing myself up with my lack of knowledge on the quiz this year. I need to find a good teammate.
I tell you, Joe always does well because he's got the console knowledge. But when he's on my team, I kind of bring him down a bit.
No, I'm middle of the road. I've come first, I think maybe twice, maybe once, and I've come
twice
last
more than me.
And I've come last a couple of times with Ravi, so, you know.
Yeah.
When you've won, you've been with me, right? I'm pretty sure that's the case.
Might have been, actually. Yeah, well, might have been, yeah.
I'm going to do my predictions now. So I'm thinking Joe's going to win this year. I'm maybe even putting Ravi in second. I think I might have a loss. I don't know. I'm not feeling that confident.
How could I maintain my record?
Just bringing Ravi up a little bit there.
We're all trying to do badly.
So yeah, that's going to be coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Very hyped for that. And today on the show, if you're listening on audio, you're going to get it in part 2 of the audio podcast. If you're on YouTube, this will land on Monday. We're going to be catching up with someone who was on the show, which is nuts because we see him all the time at events. Whenever we do like Amiga events in particular, like Amiga Germany, you'll see him like in the corner of the venue or the corner of a nightclub, blasting out mods on his Amiga, playing the tunes on the decks. And then we often cover him in the news, talking about these incredible game ports that he's been doing to platforms like the Amiga, the Mega Drive, even the Neo Geo in recent years as well. And it's quite insane that we've not had it on the podcast for almost 10 years. For a proper interview, we're going to be catching up with Hoffman this week.
Yeah, but like you said, you know, DJ Hoffman, aka Ian Ford, is a really interesting guy. He's from the kind of demo scene, you know, back in the days. He used to make a lot of tunes, so he's very audio based, but he's got a great understanding of coding and computers. And he's now in TBL as well, which is the Black Lotus, who are one of the best demo groups. You know, every Black Lotus demo I used to see coming out, I was like, oh, this is just insane. The way that they push those machines. Eon was their latest one, which came out a few years ago, which just looked just fantastic, amazing. And that was targeted for the Amiga. And Hoffman's very much an Amiga guy, but he's done other system stuff. So he's porting video games at the moment. He's ported a few titles that haven't really hit the Amiga. Metal Gear was one of his great ports. We actually had him on the podcast to talk about that. And he's been doing some other stuff as well for the Neo Geo. He's done Nightmare. He's done, I don't think I can ever say this right, Cesanoid or Cesanoid, which is really cool because he's actually taken these games and jazzed them up a bit. He's added a bit of a bouncing soundtrack in there. He's added some extras in there, compiled the best bits of other titles and created these ports. Well,
one thing, Sam, you did mention that the Neo Geo ports is something he's done in recent years. He did Golden Axe he ported to the Neo Geo recently, but we hear more in the interview that he went all out on this. He basically wanted to make it like the ultimate home version of Golden Axe. And even stuff like, if you played the arcade, you'll know that Golden Axe famously sampled a lot of audio samples from 80s movies like Conan the Barbarian, American Werewolf in London, Rambo, I think is another one as well. And he said he wasn't satisfied with the quality of the samples on the arcade version. So he actually went out and got the DVD versions and sampled them again himself. Tracked down the bits in the movie, so he had the best possible quality version of them in his version.
It's quite good, he's really into sound. He did PT1210 with a couple of others, which is the Pro Tracker DJ software, which has allowed a whole scene to kind of be created about DJing, Amiga tunes and mods. And I definitely do that. And I've been doing that for years now and really love him for, making that. But also being a demo scener, he explained some new stuff that's going on in the demo world. So no CPU demos, a new kind of concept, which
when I heard about that, I was like, how the hell does that even work?
Yeah. And this is using all the tricks on Amiga, on the different chips, and no CPUs getting access at any point. So the demo's created, even limiting the hardware nowadays, not just the software that it's created on, not that size limitation. You're limiting which chips you're using. So it's a really cool little chat. And it's awesome having Hoffman on as well, because he's a fountain of knowledge. So there's so much in this interview.
Yeah, so always nice to catch up with him. Hoffman, our special guest on the show. Like I said, landing on YouTube on Monday. Audio listeners are going to get it in part 2 of this week's podcast. Now, if you are a regular, you'll know the way the show normally works. We update you on what's been happening in retro from over the last week on the first part of the podcast. Now, I did mention that things have been a bit manic recently. I think when Joe hasn't been putting in his usual 12-hour shifts at work, you've basically been binging Stranger Things, haven't you? He was sending us pictures the other day. His wife had put the decorations up. He was in his Stranger Things PJs.
He was eating Stranger Things KFC.
Yeah. We've always said he's a bit of a Stranger Thing himself. Yeah. So
I am.
yeah. Well, for people who don't know, Stranger Things obviously been going, what's about 10 years now that's been running on Netflix?
9 years it started. Yeah. And the first half of the final season, season 5, came out 2 weeks ago, a week ago,
and
it was.
And the reason we're mentioning it is because, it has an accurate portrayal of time periods and a lot of the nostalgia that's within those. And I think we reported on them having an Amiga 1000 I think it was a couple of series ago. But, we see the technology of the time on display.
Well, the current series of Stranger Things is set in 1987. So a few years after the last series, and I was saying to the guys before, if you do watch it, obviously it's quite evident now that the actors are all like in the late teens, probably early 20s now. So
I'm a big fan, but I haven't watched it because I saw the de-aging kind of CGI stuff at the beginning, and I was like, oh no, I like it when it's a bit more less CG. So yeah.
Until all the lads had shaved the beards off, and probably come up with
clean shaven that day.
But that aside, I mean, you've got to use your imagination a bit. But I mean, I've only watched the first episode so far. I do love the vibe of Stranger Things. I mean, obviously, set in the 80s. They always have authentic 80s technology, like we mentioned in the last series, having the Amiga 1000 in there as well, which, was actually quite authentic, wasn't it? They were running like Workbench and stuff on it as well, I remember. So they do, in terms of attention to detail, normally pretty on point. Now, this is the Duffer Brothers who are behind Stranger Things. Although I have seen a few people a little bit up in arms about the attention to detail on the NES on the latest series of Stranger Things.
Yeah, so I think it's in the 3rd episode. So I don't want to spoil it because Ravi's not watched it yet, and Dan's only watched the first episode.
There'll be many people that haven't watched it as well. So
But I feel like this is a bit of a spoiler. So there's a new character.
I think this has been everywhere, though. You know,
it has been everywhere.
Yeah.
So skip a few minutes ahead if you don't want to hear this. But basically, there's a character who I won't give you much about him, but he's a new character. He's a young lad called Derek Turnbow. And there is a scene where you see his bedroom. Now, his bedroom is probably, every nerd's dream, or many nerds' dreams in 1987. There is an arcade cabinet in the background of Hang On. There is also a Mac in the background. I don't know what unit.
Yeah, I spotted that little Mac in the corner. Yeah.
Yeah. But in the scene, the prominent thing of the scene is he is playing his NES. And he is playing Ghosts and Goblins on it, which, I pointed out to my wife straight away. What I didn't point out was, which is unusual for the Duffel Brothers, with Stranger Things and stuff, that it's the particular version he is playing. He's playing the NES, but displayed on the screen is the arcade version of the game, which, not a massive blunder, but in our community, some people have seen that as a huge blunder.
Oh yeah, people are up in arms on Facebook. I've seen.
I have seen a fair amount about how they actually got this one wrong. And it was very kind of like, it was the day of the release. The day it came out, people were like, "Wow, look at this!" But basically, I always played Super Ghouls and Ghosts, the Super Nintendo one, and then I played the Mega Drive one as well. So I'm not familiar with the NES one. And I don't think I've ever played it in the arcade, but basically the obvious difference is the black bar across the top, kind of signifies that that's the arcade version. I imagine the graphics are probably better in the arcade version than they were on the NES version.
Oh, yeah.
And Time Extension, their article did point out that the guy who wrote that did notice it was the wrong version, but he assumed it may have been the Master System version that was playing, or another 8-bit version on there, and it wasn't until he started seeing people pointing out to him it was the arcade version. So yeah, quite the, I don't know, blunder, I guess. I guess
it could be a blunder, or it could be deliberate. Maybe they haven't got the rights. Maybe it was a bit more expensive to show that version.
Maybe I feel like they would have picked a different game if that was the case.
Yeah.
If it was BBC Breakfast, they would have picked GTA 4.
Sure, people have seen those posts, yeah. BBC Breakfast putting an NES cart into a Super Nintendo a few months ago. But the thing is, I haven't got this far in the series yet, but maybe this character, Derek, he said he's pretty rich. Maybe he's got a mate who's a modder, modded his NES and put an arcade board in there or something, He could have been ahead of the curve there.
I doubt it, but maybe.
Yeah, anything's possible when you're in a fantasy world. But yes, it is not their usual attention to detail, which is actually quite surprising. So we're talking about this on our Patrons Hangout on Sunday. There's actually here in the UK, there is a radio station, which is the station that they're actually in Stranger Things, WSK The Squawk. That is a real thing at the moment that's on here in the UK on DAB. And the company behind it, Global Radio, they've actually gone to really extreme lengths. Have actually basically recreated an 80s radio studio using all the original kit and the processors and everything as well.
Which you were loving because you're a radio guy. So you were contacting us have you seen this, guys?
Yeah, I think it's running on
analog boards and stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, an Innovatronics audio processor from 1983. Oh, nice. And actually, if you listen to the stream, it really does sound like, really different to what you hear normally today. I think it's only on for about a month. So if you're going to have a listen to that, you might need a VPN outside the UK. But definitely been playing on my smart speaker around the house over the last couple of weeks. Very cool. So if you're loving Stranger Things, a little thing to look out for as you get into Series 5. Now, something else I'm pretty hyped for, being that it is that time of year when we're thinking of stuff. My wife today was like, come on, what do you want for your birthday and Christmas? This might be one thing that I asked for, actually, because I do have a lovely Evercade. Which I've actually got in my hand right now. I think I haven't played my Evercade for a few months. I think what cartridge I've got in here at the moment, it is actually the Atari Lynx Collection Volume 1 that I've got in my lovely Evercade. And that's a good thing about this system. When you buy games, it's generally not just one title. They do these great compilations, generally of a bunch of games from a certain developer or a certain company or even a certain series, which is a big news today, that actually early next year, coming out in February 2026, they're going to be doing a pretty comprehensive collection of Turrican games for the Evercade.
Yeah, so coming out in February. This is the Turrican Collection, which it says it's going to include home computer and console versions of the Turrican games. I didn't realize there was this many Turrican games, to be honest. So I'll go through the list. So you get Turrican, Turrican 2, The Final Fight, Turrican 3, Super Turrican, Super Turrican Director's Cut, Super Turrican 2, Super Turrican Score Attack, Mega Turrican, Mega Turrican Director's Cut, and Mega Turrican Score Attack. I thought there was like 3 Turrican games.
That's all I've played. Yeah.
Well, I guess these, we've covered Turrican before, and these are the console specific ones.
These
so,
are all the different variants.
Yeah, the Super and the Mega Drive.
Yeah. It's interesting saying that these are home computer and console ports. Now, there's not actually a specific list of which versions are on the cart from what I've seen now. I'm sure if looking at stuff like, Mega Turrican, you'll know the platform that came out on, for example. But then, I'm looking through this. So basically there's 8 games and 2 bonus items, I say on here. Turrican 1, which looking at it, I always associate Turrican with the Commodore 64 and the Amiga. Got to admit, it has been quite a while since I played it. Looking at the screenshot of Turrican, maybe you played it a bit more recently, Ravi. Does that look like it's the Amiga version to you?
Actually, yeah, it does. Yeah. All
right. Yeah, Turrican 2 to me, Turrican 2, The Final Fight, the 16-bit home computer version of it, it says. There are quite a few people in the comments saying it is a pretty big omission that they, it doesn't look like they've included the Commodore 64 version.
To be honest, like the Turrican thing didn't really excite me that much. The Taito Arcade 3 one did, which is the other release that they're putting out. The story's kind of been put out that these 2 Evercade releases are happening at the same time, and I think the Turrican one is obviously going to get a load of attention because it's such a huge name. But looking at this Taito Arcade one, it brought back so many memories for me of games that I'd totally forgotten about. Puzzle Bobble is one that I've not forgotten about because I think that is just one of the most addictive games. Like Puzzle Bobble and Peggle to me were massively addictive, but also Quicks as well, which was a really cool title that I totally forgot about, where you've got sections of the screen and you've got to remove them. And there was another one, Camelotry. I don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but it was like a ball and you're rotating the screen and it looks like a giant marble. That was one that was in the recesses of my mind that's just kind of like popped out looking at this Taito Arcade collection, which looks really cool. And I'd actually go for this over the Turrican one if I only had to choose one. But I do think they're both 2 fantastic releases.
Yeah, now, I'm looking at because as you mentioned there, so basically the announcement is, we kind of jumped into it a bit quick there, but so the Turrican Collection is the first release that they're going to be bringing out in February, but they've also announced this Taito Arcade Volume 3. Now, they have put out 2 of these already, and so this is the 3rd in the Taito Collection. So on here you got Kadash, Camelotry, Crazy Balloon, which is not a game I'm familiar with, the Fairyland Story, Football Champ, Lunar Rescue, which I was a big fan of that on the home machines back in the day. I think my brother had that on the 64. Puzzle Bobble, of course, legendary. Kicks on there as well. Zookeeper. So, I've been looking through. I remember the last collection that we talked about, stuff like New Zealand Story, Operation Wolf on there. First collection had Bubble Bobble, Space Invaders. There are a couple of big omissions. The fact that they haven't put Rainbow Islands on any of these yet is kind of mind-blowing, I think.
Yeah. Maybe they're waiting for 4. Probably a big title on each one. They got Puzzle Bobble. They had New Zealand Story, don't they?
They might do a Rainbow Island, just like cartridge though, with like all versions of it.
To be fair, that was ported to everything back in the day. So that could be an interesting release if they did. But yeah, stuff like Chase HQ, people are pointing out as well. Pretty mind blowing that hasn't appeared on any of the Taito Arcade collections yet. But obviously they're doing this as a series, aren't they? So the good thing about Evercade is they always They're always curated lists as well. That gives you a bit of variation. They're not like all shoot 'em ups or anything like that. So I think, it is a decent selection of games if you're a fan of the Taito arcades back in the day. So both of these, the Turrican Collection and Taito Arcade Volume 3, landing on the Evercade early 2026. So I'll link that up in this week's show notes. Now, there has seemed to be a bit of a theme on the show over the last year. Seems every few months we're talking about a new VMU for the Sega Dreamcast. Now, obviously the VMUs were these little pocket-sized devices that they were basically save devices, weren't they, for the Dreamcast? And also had a few extra stuff on there as well. It's often said that they were kind of mini pocket handheld game consoles. You know, there were a few little games that you could play on there. Also give you a bit of extra information when you're playing a game as well. You can get little graphics and things that appeared on the VMU. So it's slotted inside the Dreamcast controller. I remember it absolutely munched through batteries though. That's if I turn a Dreamcast on, it doesn't make that high-pitched squeal. It doesn't feel right to me because that was always my experience with the Dreamcast.
You know what? I, for years, just thought that was the noise a Dreamcast made when you switched it on. I didn't know any different.
It's basically when it's eating through the CR2032 battery in like 2 weeks, like it always did. But obviously, a lot of fans over the last couple of years have been making their own modern spins on the awesome VMU. And this one looks like it could be the ultimate VMU for your Dreamcast, the VMU Pro from 8-Bit Mods.
I can't help but think this is a little bit like, so you start reading this article and it's like, you know, it's got a color screen, one and a half inch screen on there. You know, the memory capacity on it is basically unlimited. You know,
it's got these like virtual VMUs, hasn't it? So you can do many, which we've seen on previous,
which we saw on the VMU
ones,
2, I think it was, and this is the Pro. And I just felt like this was like such a how far we've come kind of moment. Dan was telling me earlier on that basically you can run emulation on these, and you can play like Game Boy Color and NES games on it. Which just seems like crazy, but also I don't know. I can't help but think a bit redundant. Like it's a VMU, it's a memory card for the Dreamcast, and it just feels a bit like you've been playing Power Stone, you're going to pop it out, and now you're going to play Super Mario Land 3, Super Mario World 3, or whatever kind of thing on your in your VMU. It just seems a bit crazy to me, and also is it an MP3 player as well?
Yes, I can go through the basically the summary of what this is. I mean, this was actually I've got a feeling we may have covered this on the show back in the summer because this was up for pre-orders back in May. So the reason we're talking about it now is they have started to get delivered to people, and the reviews are out for it now, which have been a bit of a mixed bag. But it turns out you can actually head to their website and buy it straight up now. There's no kind of waiting list. As they said, if you order it now, you're going to get it March next year, priced at £74.99 here in the UK. So VMU Pro, a modern take on the original memory card for the Sega Dreamcast. Basically, the idea of this is to overcome the limitations of the original. You've got a 1.5-inch 24-bit color IPS display, a 240 by 240 resolution. You've got a rechargeable battery in there as well that charges up via USB-C. Obviously, you've got the D-pad on there and the buttons just like the original too, basically turning it into like the original VMU, memory card function, and a mini handheld device as well. And the reason it's unlimited is because there's a micro SD card slot on there too.
Yeah,
so
and they've got an SDK as well. So, people can develop their own apps and games for it and stuff. So, it's got a bit of a future as a platform if you like this form factor. But you can connect it up to other older VMUs, do transfers, get all the data off there and stuff. So there might be some useful interconnecting VMU things, firmware updates that you can blast at stuff. I find it kind of funny that they're touting MP3 as a big thing because that's just hit 25 years old itself in that technology. If they had FLAC, that might be cool, lossless audio on the thing. Probably a lot better quality audio than you get on the actual Dreamcast itself. But yeah, it looks pretty cool. But it is expensive. It's £79. So, yeah.
Well, it has got built-in Wi-Fi as well, where you can do over-the-air firmware updates. And one great thing about it is, you did mention that you can take your saves off your original VMUs. You can back them up using this to like Google Drive, for example.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So basically save your collection.
Yeah.
It runs emulators as well. So there's Game Boy, NES, Master System, Game Gear with save states, which I'm not sure how comfortable they're going to be to play on that tiny little screen on there. The MP3 playback is pretty bizarre. So it's got a custom UI for browsing and managing songs on there too. So you can do stuff like changing the volume, copy and delete
I think
stuff
also
on
it had, as we previously said about other VMUs, it had this database where, ISOs and images that you'd load up on a ODE, it would detect which games they are and then save it quite accurately. So it's benefited from a lot of the history of VMU stuff. Don't know how big the market is for this stuff, really. Like, can it justify building this? But there seems to be so many choices at the moment as well. You probably get the VMU, put it in, I've got the most advanced in the world, and then another comes out and you're like, oh, God damn it.
Well, to me, this is already way beyond anything I ever needed or even imagined I'd want from the VMU. I think basically for most people, it's a backing up and saving your data, isn't it? And having a permanent record of it. Although the reviews say apparently at the moment it's, first release, it's not completely polished. Some people have reported like freezing devices, needing a hard reset. Apparently sometimes a display that gets stuck upside down and needs a reset as well. Apparently a Wi-Fi network change requires a full factory reset of the device. So there are a few quirks as well. Apparently people have complained that the D-pad and the buttons feel a little bit flimsy, which are not ideal for demanding games. Who the hell is doing hardcore gaming on a VMU though? I'm not quite sure. So, I mean, I do get the complaints. The fact they're charging $74.99 for it, you'd probably want it to be kind of that premium quality, but it does sound like, there is quite a lot packed into this little device, I think.
If they put a Tamagotchi on it, I'll get one.
There you go. Yeah. Someone's got to port that to it. So, if you want to get a hold of that, $74.99, you can buy that from 8bitmods.com for shipping March next year. I'll link that in this week's show notes. Now, lots of more stories on the way to talk about, including a follow-up to I know one of you guys' favourite zombie games from back in the day, a new Commodore Plus4 game that I'm going to bore you guys with in just a second as well. I did mention that we're into December now, maybe the time of year when you're thinking of Christmas prezzies. Can I suggest something? And I got in my hand here, this is a copy of the Retro Hour book. Now, if you're not familiar with this, we did actually write a book. A couple of years ago, we did a Kickstarter on this podcast. It was very successful, actually mind-blowingly successful, wasn't it? I think way exceeded any of our expectations.
I think we sold around 1,000 already, which is pretty just insane to think that there's that many copies of the book out there and, people are enjoying it.
And some people might say, hang on, how on earth can you make a book out of a podcast? Joe.
So we curated, handpicked. So we did this 3 years ago. So at that point we had maybe 300 episodes, maybe a little bit less than that to pick from. But basically the idea started that we picked between the three of us, our 10 favourite interviews, kind of like moulded the show and kind of like represented the history of the video games industry as much as possible from, our little podcast. But that isn't all what's in there. We did also include 4 exclusive interviews, which...
You always get that wrong, Joe.
I always
5.
get that wrong. It's 5. It ended up being 5. 5 exclusive interviews. So there's 15 in there in total. 5 of them have never been on the podcast.
Which I must say that the exclusive interviews that we got were insane. Like, they were really Motohiro Kawashima, the guy who did the soundtracks for Streets of Rage, Henk Nieborg as well, the one of the best pixel artists that you've ever seen. I love his work, absolutely amazing. Dylan Cuthbert as well, main programmer behind Star Fox and Star Fox.
We had that on the podcast before, but there was a completely different interview in the book, wasn't it?
And Andrew Braybrook as well, who was creator of Uridium. So we've got a big kind of diversity and a diverse selection in there. And I also think the guests that we picked really, really diverse. There's people like Jeff Minter and Dominic Diamond, Trip Hawkins, Al Nielsen, Ed Smith, all around the world, really.
Yeah.
And much more, yeah.
And the extra one that you didn't mention there, the bonus ones, David Rowe, who actually did the cover.
How could I forget David Rowe?
Yeah. So,
but yeah, we thought it was sold out. And then our publisher, who produced the book for us in Germany, reached out to Dan a couple of months ago and was like, I've got another box of books here for you and got them shipped over to Dan. Unexpectedly turned up at Dan's house a couple of months ago. So we have got a little more than a handful for sale still. We've spruced up, I say we, Ravi has spruced up the website recently, and we have relaunched our Shopify page on there for people to go check it out. So the book is for sale there, as well as the digital version. If you just want the digital version as well, that is available. But this is it. We won't be, printing these again. We're not going to be doing that again or anything. So, it is just while these books last, and then they will be done.
And I had these shelves at home with them in there. And now we're down to like two shelves.
Yeah.
And it's going quickly. And if you do order, I will try to make sure it gets out like the next day so you get it before Christmas because, hopefully with the UK, it should be very fast. International, it's quite hard. But just let me know.
Yeah, and it's a decent book as well, 400 plus pages, so you get a lot for your money. I think I was pretty proud of it when we got it. Yeah, so it's really a physical celebration of this podcast. But like you said, the people that are in there, I mean, it's basically like the subheading of the book says, a history of video gaming from those that made it happen. Really, the essence of it. So loads of beautiful pictures in there as well. I think every page has got a gorgeous photo on it. Lots of extra stuff in there, a bunch of articles that we did as well. So you're getting a load of new material in here as well. So if you haven't got your copy, get them while you can before it's sold out forever. All the details to get yours on the website, theretrohour.com. Now, something else that we're going to be getting in time for Christmas by the looks of it. This is pretty exciting. This is Mighty Final Fight Forever. I know a lot of people have been very excited about this one.
Yeah, so we've had the Mega Final Fight, I think it's called, Mega Drive version of Final Fight, which is a fan-made port of Final Fight that's been doing the rounds for about a year now, which we covered a while ago. And then I think we've mentioned this 2 or 3 years ago when it first started getting made. This is a remake of Mighty Final Fight. Do you guys know what Mighty Final Fight was?
It looks very cute.
Yeah, so Mighty Final Fight was a spin-off that came out on the NES in 1993, really late into the NES's lifespan, and it was basically a version of Final Fight with 8-bit graphics, but it had like chibi, tiny little sprites
with the big heads,
and it was a bit of a cute 'em up kind of like version of Final Fight, and it was basically, I
like that as a genre, cute 'em up.
It was basically like its own kind of like parallel dimension version of Final Fight, which has become a very, very, very sought after, expensive kind of like cult classic game. This is basically a remake / sequel to Final Fight, which is called Mighty Final Fight Forever. So this is set 4 years after Final Fight, Mighty Final Fight, and it becomes its own kind of like, story, its own different like universe. It isn't an official game. It is obviously a ROM, that is downloadable for PC. It doesn't work on NES because of the graphics are beautiful. It is still that awesome, cute 'em up chibi style. But the game looks massive. It's coming out on the 23rd of December. And it will launch for free. It's 7 levels, which includes 58 different areas. It is co-op play. So famously, a lot of the ports and versions of Final Fight back in the day were only single player. Whereas obviously...
And that couch co-op for these kind of games is so important. It makes these games, doesn't it?
So important. So it is 2-player, which is great. It also has, which I love, which just feels like such a throwback. You always remember like you'd get Golden Axe for console and you'd get like Streets of Rage and stuff. And they'd always have a versus mode built in there that you might play once or twice against your brother or whatever. It's got the versus mode in there as well.
Right.
But this game, it isn't like improved graphics of the original or anything. It is a complete remake, but captures the essence of the original.
They've done like every level, but ramped it up, and they've also added in loads of extra stuff. And the thing that I love about this is I have no clue about the cutesy world that Joe occupies, and all of these kind of these games. But it's based on Open Bore, which is the Beats of Rage engine, which was really cool because I remember when that first started, that was just like open Streets of Rage, and people were doing really simple kind of ones. I remember they did a huge Asterix one at the beginning, and that was like a total kind of change and a total conversion on Boar. And seeing this become an independent game and Boar become like an engine now, and something that's this powerful that you're having remakes of those kind of titles done.
It feels quite full circle because obviously Streets of Rage was Sega's answer to Final Fight, and then obviously you get the Beats of Rage, which has become its own game engine and its own community. And like you say, Ravi, it kind of started off as just, it would be Streets of Rage, but they would put different sprites in there.
Yeah, you get wacky ones. Like, you'd be like, oh, have you played this one? Have you checked this out? But now it's like total new worlds, and it's just amazing.
There's no resemblance in there of Streets of Rage at all. It resembles Mighty Final Fight. But yeah, I think it's a stunning looking game. It'd be wicked to see this as a proper release, even if it was on like, it would need to be on like Mega Drive or Dreamcast or something. But yeah, it looks awesome. I really, really like the look of this. I do want to play it. I'd love to play it on 2-player.
I mean, this looks like it could be a AAA release. You got the original characters in there, redesigned with new moves, color palettes being improved, new playable characters in there, original enemies, new enemies, original levels, some completely remade. You got levels from other Final Fight games, complete new levels are put in there too. They remade the original soundtrack, some new tracks are included, new weapons, special attacks. Apparently there's several ways to go through and finish the game as well, so lots of replayability there. And you mentioned that really important co-op and attack mode as well, which I think just looks absolutely awesome. It is a shame that Capcom aren't like behind this and kind of pushing it, because I think the amount of effort and love that's gone into this, it does feel like it definitely deserves to be an official release. But it also makes sense, because it's not officially endorsed or licensed. They are putting it out for free, which I guess for fans who want to play it, that's always a bonus, isn't it, that they don't charge for these. But like any of these, I'd get them while it's there.
Get it while it's
there. It's going to be dropping just in time for Christmas. Have you got a few days off? Landing on your PC on December 23rd. Now, this looks very cool. If you want something new for your Nintendo DS, just think when I read this story, I need to show my DS a bit of love. I've got a 3DS. It's probably been in the cupboard ever since I got my Switch. I don't think I've played it. So, not a great system. I mean, those games are just incredible. One of the best probably handhelds over the last 20 years. One of the biggest sellers as well. And if you have got a DS lying around and maybe you want a few extra games for it, or you want to, play the games that you own in a more convenient way, let's say that for copyright reasons. This is the DSpico. They're calling this the world's first open source Nintendo DS flashcart.
Yeah, this is insane. Really cool to see, actually. This seems like something a bit more than a development cart, something a bit more than a piracy device as well, which is interesting because Nintendo, they frown upon these flash carts. They frown upon anything being modded on their system. And
I think they've taken a few DS ones down in the past, haven't they?
Yes, previously, which are they still selling the DS?
No.
No. So, yeah, I don't know why they'd be so interested in that. But this is really cool. It's a flashcart, but it has a Raspberry Pi 2040 in there. It's compatible with an unmodified DS, a DSi, and a 3DS console as well. Unmodified is great. You just go in there. It uses a DSi mode exploit. I've never really kind of played with a DS and exploiting it, but seems like it'll run on just an unmodified one. It detects the console's firmware, and then it loads the correct bootloader in there. And the stuff you can do on there, you can add in homebrew, you can add in development stuff. There's a nice load of software behind it. It's quite power efficient as well, which is interesting because, being a portable console, I can imagine some of these flash carts would drain a lot of your power. And if you're gaming on that for quite a long time, testing stuff or even loading up some software that you shouldn't be, it could take a load of consumption, start draining your batteries. So this is quite good. And it seems to be really fast as well. The reading speed is 6 megabits per second, which is quite good, especially if you're like reading ROMs and stuff like that off a SD card. I used to have one in my Dreamcast in the back that used serial, and you were trying to run anything from that, and it was quite hard.
It looks great, and I think the fact the team have been 4 years have been working on this, so it's a real community effort by the LNH team who are behind this. I think it's interesting that the fact that it's open source, I've got a feeling, will mean that it gets longer term support than a lot of the flashcards that are out there, because there's a lot of them that come out and then they release it, you buy it, but then the next one comes along in a couple of years and yours is kind of left behind, and you don't get any updates on new features. But having one that's open source, anyone can basically improve it or upgrade it, which I think is pretty cool. It's also got some interesting features as well. Apparently it's going to have infrared support. Yeah,
which is mad, which they're saying could potentially include an infrared expansion board as well. Yeah,
apparently not implemented yet, but again, work in progress. I think it's pretty cool. I mean, obviously I'm looking at this, there's a page, if you go to lnhteam.org, it's got all the details on there, the firmware, the software that you need, how to make your own as well, in terms of the hardware skills, probably beyond what I could do. But being open source, I imagine people are going to make these and start to sell them.
Yeah, and that little microcontroller for the Raspberry Pi is really good. The 2040, I had one. I had a Wii U that got bricked, and I managed to unbrick it with one of these 2040s. So that's really cool.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really good, I think, and the fact that I imagine these will sell for quite an affordable price, being based on commodity hardware as well.
Yeah.
The prices normally when, we talked about that VMU before, when they get to like the 80 quid mark, that's because they're making their own hardware, not just using something off the shelf. So
yeah, and then the Chinese knockoff will come out.
Yeah. So,
as usual.
Yeah. Which is pretty cool, because I mean, I've got a DS, and I think it's, as I mentioned before, about time I show it a bit of love, and good way to back up your games. And
what I'd love to see? I'd love to see the 3DS. I thought was pretty cool, the 3D effect on there. I'd love to see some demos running on that, or some experimentation with that 3D technology. That would be pretty cool.
I'm playing Polybius for the 3DS.
Imagine the big Boing Board demo coming out.
Story next year, yeah,
that'd be pretty cool. So, we've got a DS and you want to soup it up, play a few homebrew titles, keep an eye out for that. I'll link it in this week's show notes too. Now, I know you lads love this series. Something I never got massively into. I did play it on the 360, I think, briefly when it came out. Dead Rising. Now, this game came out, 2006, the original game? I know, Joe, you're kind of our resident zombie nut. Anything with a flesh-eating zombie in there, you're all over
resident zombie.
Yeah. I know you love the Dead Rising games.
I do. 2006, we got the original Dead Rising on the Xbox 360, which later got ported to PS3, and then it got a remaster in 2015, 2016. Then it got remade / remastered. It was a bit of a weird one. They called it a remaster, but it was basically a remake last year in 2024, which I really, really enjoyed.
Did you play through it?
Yeah, I completed it. I got like every achievement on it as well.
You see, I've been playing the original, and I forgot about how hard some of the missions are. They're absolutely brutal on some of them.
So we're going off on a tangent here, but the original, going back to the original 360 one, which, you're like, it's the retro hour. You've been talking about Dreamcast, and, you've been talking about VMUs and everything on it.
We're getting old.
But yeah, 20 years ago, the Xbox 360 came out, and this game is 19 years old.
And the saving was brutal on it as well.
Yeah,
if you messed up the saving,
it was Clunk City. The AI in it was terrible. When you go back, and also the controls were very, very, very clunky. The 2024 remake of it was a lot of kind of like quality of life, updates in it. In the original, I think to dash and roll out of the way, you had to like pull the analog stick back and then flick it to the direction you want to go. In the remake, they changed it to B. So it actually became one of the easiest games ever, which I loved. A lot easier. But the reason we're talking about it is, other than remakes, the series has generally been, for new games in the series, has been dead since, 2015, I want to say. We got Dead Rising 4, maybe 2016, which, many people weren't a big fan of Dead Rising 4. They famously took out the the kind of like the day cycle. You know how you always have a time limit in the Dead Rising games. You know, you've got 3 days to reveal the full story,
which was good.
They made it just a big free roaming game with the 4th one.
It added a pace to it, and also a kind of panic, like time's running out. I've got to get this going. Yeah.
Yeah, and it kind of introduced, multiple playthroughs of the game, etc. So the reason we're talking about it is they apparently, Capcom have not officially announced it yet, but there's been some leaks that we are seeing a resurgence of the series, and we are going to see a new game in the franchise in 2026. So this isn't confirmed yet, but it's heavily rumored. I've seen this everywhere. Ravi has also seen this everywhere because we were talking about it. But we are going to see the return of Frank West, the original character, as well as the return of the photography aspect of the game, and the return of the time limit, the day cycle in there. So it's going to be very much back to the roots of the game, which will be 20 years old. In the next couple of
which I think is huge as well, because it's weird that the audiences internationally, like Japan loved Dead Rising. It was really a huge title there, and also in the West. And there seems to be a kind of thing where the West and Japan unite over zombie games,
over zombie killing.
Yeah.
Interestingly, you like the Wii version of it, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I thought that one's fun.
I didn't even know it came out on the Wii.
It did. It massively reduced how many zombies could be on screen at once.
And
I might like that version, yeah.
You use the Wiimote, yeah.
You use the Wiimote, to turn the graphics and the gore down as well. But apparently it is a really good version of the game, fun version of the game, different. But yeah, fingers crossed this is all true. And we are going to see a full-on sequel. So hopefully Dead Rising 5, I imagine it'll be called, in the near future. So Capcom bringing back the zombie love. They've got Resident Evil 9 coming out in February as well. This is interesting because obviously Capcom already have Resident Evil as a zombie franchise, and Capcom also do Dead Rising, which obviously been a dormant franchise other than a remake.
You can't have enough zombies, can you?
No, absolutely not. Yeah. I'm all for it.
Yeah, so if you're a fan of those games, Joe's already excited for 2026. I can see him rubbing his little hands in glee. Looking forward to all the zombie madness coming up in 2026. Now, I'll let you guys have your zombie moment there, because I'm going to bore you for the last couple of minutes of the podcast by talking about the Commodore Plus4. Now, the Commodore Plus4, I've mentioned it on the show loads of times. My first computer when I was a kid, because my mum got it cheap about 3 or 4 years after it was discontinued. And even though it was a machine that wasn't highly regarded for gaming, really it was made as a low-cost business machine, really. Didn't have hardware sprites, no SID, nothing like that. So a lot of the games you got on there were quite limited. I often equate them more, in line with maybe the Spectrum than the Commodore 64. But in recent years, I've been talking quite a bit about these on the podcast. And I've seen, a few people have said, thank you for covering the Plus4.
Dan, I think I've seen people say, Hanwood flies the flag for the Plus4. And I think it's really cool that you've got such a passion for it, because it's an obscurity. It's a real obscurity for me. And I'm like a Commodore fan. So, having you kind of update me on that era. Also seeing some of the stuff that's been coming out. So recently we saw the Lemmings port, which was really impressive, and then Prince of Persia as well. So there's another one to add to that, and it's actually from Mike Daly, which is pretty crazy. He told us about it in the patron chat. One of our patrons, Mike Daly, creator of Lemmings, and also Grand Theft Auto. Some small titles there,
Yeah. Yeah, Mike isn't behind this, but yeah, he did draw it to our attention on our Patrons Hangout on Sunday, which was quite cool, actually. Mike having a bit of a Plus4 chat in little chat box there, because Plus4 was actually Mike's first computer as well, so we kind of bond over that. And like you mentioned, Ravi, there have been some really impressive homebrew ports. We had stuff like Turbo Outrun that we talked about on the show as well.
Yes,
really got a lot of great Gianna sisters on there. And a lot of these are from the Plus4 world community. I always say his name wrong. CS Arbo or Sarbo, Kitschy and the Sarge as well.
You need to get them on. They'd be great on the podcast.
I have contacted them before. Yeah, we have spoken.
Dan's Plus4 episode.
Yeah, so we had like 3 listens to that, but I'd enjoy doing it. But I think, because the Plus4 generally was regarded as such a poor gaming platform back in the day. So I know that it has got a bit of a cult following today, and seeing the stuff that people are doing on this machine is just insane. So the latest one is another version of Green Beret. Now, Green Beret, originally released back in 1985 by Konami, also known as Russian Attack. It was a pretty cool run and gun, hack and slash kind of game. Came out on a load of home systems, including famously the NES. But there was a home port on the Commodore 16 and Plus4. Now, these machines always got grouped in together because basically the Commodore 16 was a reduced Commodore Plus4. Didn't have the built-in like spreadsheet and word processor that was on the Plus4 and had half the memory. Actually, a quarter of the memory, 16K. But it was in a nicer case. Looked like a black Commodore 64. So a lot of people basically today dissect Commodore 16s for the case and shove Commodore 64s in there. But yeah, really nice looking machine. But the problem is because they ran the same software, back in the day, a lot of developers would say, well, we'll put one game out that works on the Commodore 16. It'll work on the Plus4 as well. So we'll reduce it and cram it into 16K, which was one of the reasons that, the Plus4 didn't get very high quality titles back in the day. Now, we did talk on the show a while ago that there was a really nice version of Green Beret that was ported to the Commodore 16 a couple of years ago. Fan made one. And I'll link this up for people that missed that story. But I put it in the show notes as well so you guys can have a look. If you have a look at arlagames.itch.io/Green Beret C16, you can see a screenshot in there of what the original version, the commercially released Green Beret, looked like when it came out on the Commodore 16 back in the mid-80s. Now, I've heard Ashens talk about this before as well, that this version of Green Beret is widely regarded as one of the worst video games ever made.
It looks like a Tiger game. So
yeah.
kind of release. Yeah.
Well, I mean, they're saying everything about it was wrong. It had, transparent, blocky graphics, these horrible washed out colors. Collision detection was dreadful. The enemy bullets were so quick that you couldn't react to them. The scrolling stops the entire game for a few seconds while the screen catches up. There's no weapons, no music. So, it was regarded as absolutely
a
awful
massive
version.
Afterthought, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if it was made in BASIC or something like that. It looked like, probably some kid in his bedroom did it. Right, we've got the license, slap it out on that. But the fans in recent years have done it justice by doing decent ports of Green Beret to they're called the TED machines because that was the chip that these machines ran around, TED, text editor device. Now, it turns out that there is an updated version and an enhanced version of Green Beret called Stab and Dash that has now come from that same team for the Commodore Plus4 exclusively and takes advantage of the 64 kilobytes of memory. And I think the Plus4's got 121 colours. Quite a few of those are black, but it has got more colours than the Commodore 64. But as you can see, I mean, if you check out this little playthrough that I'll put in the show notes, you can see even from the title screen just how colourful that looks compared to, for example, a 64.
It's a world of difference, isn't it? Yeah. And it's great to see people revisiting these, but also, doing it justice. This is how it should have been released.
Yeah, man. This is a team they're called Legion of Doom, who are behind a lot of these games. So it's got beautiful music, really enhanced the gameplay in here as well. Gorgeous renditions of the well-known 4 stages of the game. And it actually has that gorgeous bitmap drawn by Maestro of the C64 art scene as well. You can play it off stuff like an SD2 IEC. If you've got a 256 kilobyte expansion in the Plus4, it takes advantage of that, which is very cool. And also, one thing I thought was really interesting is if you've got an adapter to plug an NES controller in, it supports the second button on there too, which was very rare for Commodore 8-bit titles. So, I think it is great to see, like all these years later, fans actually saying, look, these machines could do better. So let's do our own version of it. And, let's bury that commercial release that came out back in the day that we were embarrassed about.
And we've seen that in the Amstrad scene, and we've seen that kind of all over. People are like going through and patching up the past and repairing some of the kind of jobs.
Yes, I mean, if you ever written off the Commodore Plus4 back in the day, might be time to have a little maybe second look at it. And you can try a few of these games in emulation as well. So the stuff they're doing on that scene at the moment, really incredible. So I'll link that up and all the rest of the stories in this week's show notes. Now, a few extra stories on the way just for our wonderful patrons in a second, because we do that for our patrons every week. We give you a couple of extra stories because we chop the adverts out of the patrons version of the podcast. It's not all you get for being a patron, though, is it, Ravi?
Not at all. As we said, it's a great community. Like, Mike Daly's a patron. He's just mentioned this story. We've had many stories that have been mentioned by the patrons, and also guests as well. You know, they're really fantastic. They kind of keep the podcast going, and it's really good to hear. You know, we were chatting to them, and they were supporting us, and also saying, you know, they pick up on different things that we mention in the podcast, some which are really funny as well. And we'll just like go over those. But we did a patrons meetup this weekend, actually, and that was really, really fantastic, getting to see everyone. You know, I've met patrons around the world. People have come over to the UK. We've been over to other countries and met patrons, and they're really just keep this podcast alive, but also such a good knowledge base. It's really good. We had a great discussion on paper tape readers and you know, different formats that we were talking about, and they definitely pick up on the news stories, but also they get some bonuses for becoming a patron. You know, the After Hours podcast, which is really enjoyable for us, actually, because this show we have to do a lot of research, we have to do a lot of questions and stuff. The After Hours one, we can kind of pick a subject and yam on about it and kind of talk about our memories with it, and it gets a lot funnier, that kind of thing, the After Hours podcast, doesn't it?
Yeah, as a new one of those just landed the year 2007. So basically, sometimes we do like we'll call the retro years. So we look at the big games, big stories, our memories as well from that year. So if you're a gold member or above, you get the After Hours podcast. 49 episodes of that available now. You'll unlock them all. You mentioned the Hangout as well. Basically, a massive Zoom call that we do once a month with our patrons. Bunch of new members as well that joined for the first time. The one we did last week. So always great to see new faces on there as well. We are going to be doing this month's one a bit early because obviously end of the month, I imagine most people are going to be, you know, doing stuff between Christmas and New Year. So our next hangout is going to be Sunday, 21st of December. Christmas jumpers compulsory. I know Joe's already bought his. Is that right?
I have, actually.
Yeah. Thought you did. Yeah. If you don't wear it, Ravi, you're going to feel really stupid.
I've got one. I'm prepared this year.
I expect to see it, yeah. So, it's just a bit of a giggle. A couple of drinks normally as well, especially the one before Christmas. If you want to join us for that, coming up 21st of December, all the details to join our wonderful patrons community on the website at theretrohour.com. All right, well, thank you for checking out the news this week. If you enjoyed any of the stories, you want to read more about them, I'll put them in the show notes. Just click straight through from your podcast app, or you can head to our website. All the links on there at theretrohour.com, and we'll have more news for you on next Friday's show.